Hi everyone, good afternoon. It's Lara here from Design Your Fabulous Future. And as promised, today I am going live predominantly to answer some questions that have arisen from our Design Your Business Challenge. It's the 5-day challenge that we've been running over in our Facebook group. And I'll pop the link to that group down below after this live stream so you can jump on over and become part of the action over there if you'd like to be. Over the last 5 days, well 6 days actually, we have been looking at ways in which we can craft a business idea that's going to work for us. Because a lot of the people over in the Facebook group indicated that they would like to start their own business. They'd like to use the skills, qualifications and experience that they've got in a way that really lights them up, that best utilises all of those things for them. And also in a way that obviously helps them to meet their financial obligations and gives them the time freedom that they've been craving. And it's been really interesting as we've gone through the challenge and people have completed all the worksheets and activities, just all the amazing things and that people are discovering about themselves that could go into the mix of creating an awesome business that is going to fulfill all of those things for them. So I asked in the group what questions people had, and also people have set up calls with me to have a chat and run through their business ideas. Now, on those calls, and half an hour long each, we are going to start to, sorry, there's a dog very comfortable there on the sofa, having a little snore, so I apologise for that. But that is really interesting because it's going to bring me to my example shortly. So those half an hour calls are really where I get on one-on-one complimentary calls just to go through individual ideas and help to really hone and craft them into something that is going to be workable, manageable, and that there's a plan around. You know, you've got great ideas, you're really energetic and enthusiastic about making them happen. The idea, of course, is that that you do take the action and it does become a reality. I can see someone's on. If you're here, just give me a little heart or a thumbs up, just so I know who's there. So Sydney the dog has just yawned, obviously, and that brings me to one of the people who, hi Ira, great to see you, one of the people who has been doing the challenge was talking about and thinking about, okay, so I have this amount of time in my day from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. when my children are at school. I like to keep fit. I love animals. I need something that's really flexible, that I can grow as a business, but essentially that I have 30 hours a week in which to do it. So from 9 till 3, Monday to Friday when the children are at school. So lots of different ideas came up based on skills and abilities. And the idea is that this person is going to be creating a dog walking business. Okay, so charging by the hour or hour and a half or however long the walks will be to walk people's dogs in a local community. Great idea, okay? Great idea because it fits with passion in terms of loving animals, loving dogs. She's got a couple of dogs of her own. It fits with the time commitments. It fits with dog walkers get between about 15 and 20 pounds an hour per dog or 2 dogs. So if she does a few dogs at a time, it definitely meets with her financial commitments and the criteria she set herself in terms of the revenue that she wants to generate. She's got runners and gum boots, Wellington boots, you call them over here. So she's got everything that she needs to. She's got everything that she needs to do. So I'm just going to have to force quit an application. She's got everything that she needs, okay, in terms of having the equipment that she needs, the time that she needs. It's going to generate the income. She's enthusiastic for it. She loves animal welfare, all of that great thing. Wonderful. So the next thing is, how is she going to get started? Because it's all very well and good to have a business idea and to craft one that you know that's going to work for you, that's going to fulfill all those criteria. But there are a few steps and a few foundations that you need to have in place before you just go and launch into it. Now, one of the things is for the business that if you create an amazing product or an amazing service, but no one wants to buy it or use it, then you haven't got a business. And so one of the very key pieces that you need to do when you come up with a business idea is to do some research around whether or not there is a market for that business, whether or not people want what you have to offer. Now, there are lots of different ways that you can go about doing that. So, for example, in our dog walking example, it might be that you look at doing a Google search for dog walkers in the local area. Often, for example, in areas where I live, there are notices up in local village shops and things looking for dog walkers or advertising dog walking services. Looking at the demographics of the population that are around you. Do they have a lot of pets or don't they have pets? Now, it's interesting because you may find that those results tell you that there are X number of families or single people who go out to, or professional people who go out to work every day, or they're out at work and school every day, and that they have dogs. And you may think, okay, well, it's brilliant because there's lots of dogs, fantastic for a dog walker. But what you may not have realised is that there's a local club that everyone takes their dogs out for a walk every evening between 5 and 6 before they have dinner, and it's a way that the community gets together. Or you may be thinking, oh, there's lots of old people and they've all got dogs and they'll all need them walking. But actually maybe those people have, I don't know if old's politically correct these days, but a lot of senior people who have pets who need walking. But again, maybe what you haven't realised is that their doctor said to them, you need to get a pet and you need to walk your pet because you need to be fit and healthy. And so they're not going to want the services of a dog walker. So key is to do some market research, finding out not just things about the population where you live, if it's a physical business, or online, if it's an online business, but to actually find out about those demographics, what their needs and wants and desires are. And there are some ways that you can do this, very simple ways, such as creating surveys, seeing what else is around, seeing how busy they are. If you are going into dog walking business, ring a couple of local dog walkers and see how busy they are. Can they fit your dog in, for example, for a dog walk? A lot of people will be happier than you realise to actually have a chat about their business and how it works, how busy they are. And they may be really happy to collaborate. For example, one of the businesses that I run is a guest house and glamping ground, and we are very friendly with other guest house owners in the area and very regularly refer business to each other, particularly if the offering that we have doesn't suit the people, or we're full, or they will do the same if they're full. So, it's about looking at those sort of things as well. Who's around in the local community, who's already doing what you're thinking about doing, what sort of client base do they serve. Now, client base is an interesting one as well, because one of the foundations of your business is getting to understand who you're going to serve. Now, a lot of people refer to it as your ideal client avatar, or your ICA. And your ICA essentially is that one person or group of people that you are speaking to through your marketing who need your services. Okay? And there's a philosophy that says that if you market to everybody, so if you are all trying to be all things to everybody, no one is going to resonate with your message. No one is going to be attracted to you, because the idea is that you actually market and speak to people who need your services in a way that makes them think, yes, that's me and I need that in my life, or I need to use that service. So in the dog walking example, if this person was in a highly residential area and there were a lot of elderly people, perhaps they would come up with that as their niche. I mean, effectively they've already got a niche, because it's people with dogs who love their dogs enough to want to have them walked while they're out at work during the day. But essentially what you're going to try and do is to find a niche that is something that resonates with you, something that you're really passionate about, so that you can refine and hone your skills to the extent that people recognise that you're an expert in area X. Again, to the dog walking area example, this person may find that there's lots of different dog walkers in the area, but no one specialises in walking elderly dogs or arthritic dogs. One of my 3 rescue dogs, Alfie, has really bad. He was born with hip dysplasia and he's had a hip replacement, and he needs a different type of walk to my other 2 dogs, Tilly the Springer Spaniel and Sydney the Lab. And so, there's that kind of thing as well. How can you niche? Any market you can niche, right? You don't want to niche so much that there's only one person wanting to buy your services. But you do want to be clear about who you serve and why you serve and what you offer, so that people will really resonate with that and think, yes, I've been looking for a dog walker who specialises in walking dogs who are a bit elderly, who have an arthritic condition, which means they can't walk as fast, and they're going to be really lovely and patient with my dog, And your whole marketing and everything speaks to that need and that desire. Now, I know that a lot of you have been talking about the fact that coming up with so many ideas, and you come up with brilliant brainwaves at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's when my ideas strike anyway. 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like, oh gosh, this is fantastic. And then what happens is a little bit of overwhelm sets in, and perhaps some fear that you're going to miss things sets in. So what happens if I create this product or service and no one buys it? What happens if I don't know where to start? How do I structure my activities so that the steps that I'm putting in place to creating this business are the right ones to do? And Ira, you asked an awesome question. I think it was a bundle of all those questions over in the Facebook group about this very thing. So you have a great idea for a business. It's sent you a bit into overwhelm. And the overwhelm comprises a couple of parts. One is, I think it's a great idea, but will anyone buy it? I think it's a great idea, but I don't want to miss anything, I don't want to start going down a track and then have to go back and fill in the gaps or find that I've missed a key ingredient in all of that. Is that right, Ira? If you can just give me a thumbs up. I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee, which is in my when in doubt make tea cup. But yeah, so you can have brilliant ideas and then they can tend to send you into overwhelm. Now, overwhelm's one of those things where it can cause, it's one of the most common causes of procrastination, because we feel like we're overwhelmed, like there's so much to do. It can send us into inaction through being distracted. We get on social media, we're distracted. It's an excuse to, get all the housework done, get the ironing done, do anything but actually focus on what we want to focus on, or what we know we need to focus on, and the steps we need to take. When you're in overwhelm, the key thing to do is do the first and smallest possible thing. Take the first and smallest possible action that you know that you need to take that's going to move you forwards to where you want to be in starting that business. And I know maybe for you, you're thinking, okay, but I don't really know what the first step is going to be. So one of the things, it's paralyzing, and I think that's the thing. When we create this paralysis happens here, it's not actually happening anywhere else. It's just in your mind, like, I don't know where to start, so how can I start? So the key is, I think, to focus, to first of all understand what's the big picture. So what is the business that you want to create? And once you've done that, once you've described the business that you want to create, and if you want to just write it there for me, Ira, that'd be brilliant. But if you don't want to share, that's fine too. I can talk in more generalities. But if you want to create a business, you really need to have then some underpinning foundations. And if you focus all the time on the big picture, then you're not going to get to the detail. You're not going to get to an understanding of what needs to happen in order to make that big picture, that big vision a reality. I'm a big picture person, and I love having that big vision because that's what motivates me. I can see the end game. I can see where I'm going. But that's not what puts food on the table. That's not what generates money. What generates money are those daily activities. What gets visibility are those daily activities that you do to put the foundations in place. And at the early stages of creating a business, it's so easy just to want to go for all the glossy stuff. It's so easy to say, okay, well, first I'm going to need a website, and I'm going to need a logo, and I'm going to need a catchy name, and I'm going to need a Facebook page, and I'm going to need a business card. And you know what? Maybe one day you'll need all those things, but they're not the things that you need to begin with when you're starting a business. And so many people I see, in fact, I've got a client right now who, for the last I can't get her off the logo issue, right? For 4 months she's been saying she's getting a logo done, and the logo's still not done, right? Is the logo going to get her more clients? No, it's not. People don't see a logo and think, wow, what a great logo. This person is exactly the sort of person I want to hire, or this person is so professional, they're getting such great results. No. The same thing with a website. Do you know what? People can see through a glossy website too. Sure, a website is nice. It's your online storefront effectively, but then unless you're actually, unless you've got products online that people are clicking through like Amazon to buy things, it's not one of the first things that you should be focusing on when it comes to business. The same with a business name. Now, yes, business names are important, and I know that the debate goes on about should I call my business by my name or by a name that is synonymous with the product, okay? Probably not a great example to use at the moment, seeing as they are closing, but Toys R Us, for example. You know, Toys R Us did or does what it said on the tin. They're all about selling toys. That's what they do. If you want to buy a toy, you go to Toys R Us, okay? Unfortunately, with their strategy, they didn't move with the times to go online in a way that sustained them. But yeah, so Toys R Us describes what it does on the tin. If you use your name, for example, John Smith, what that does is it gives you recognition as your name for doing what you do, with John Smith Coaching or John Smith Architecture or John Smith Accountancy. Or John Smith Dog Walking, for example. But it also enables you to go and do more things, build that brand out. So depending on what you're looking to do, it enables you to build that brand out. So, for example, if John Smith starts off selling widgets and gets known as the best widget maker in town, but then he decides he wants to go into nuts and bolts and fence palings as well, then having his name without anything else on his website and branding enables him to expand and grow and move forward. Okay, Ira saying exactly, get stuck on tiny details like being afraid to pick the wrong colours, or you'll end up in the wrong bracket for that and you will start blogging but won't have an audience, and it all adds up to feeling overwhelmed. Absolutely. And you know what? No one starts a blog and has like 1,000 people reading it. I'm just going to start with, right? No one does. When you start your blog, like when I started writing my blog, started doing blog posts, I think it was my mum, my dad, my sisters, my brother, and a few close friends who would read my posts or like them. And even when I started writing for Huffington Post, it was friends. It was friends who were commenting or friends who were, liking the posts. And then gradually, other people started doing too, and people started suddenly, coming into it. I think the absolute key is that, those fears or those what ifs about what if this doesn't happen or what if that doesn't happen, they are so paralysing, or they can be. But equally, the couldas, shouldas, wouldas are paralysing too in the regret sense. So, I could have been so much further ahead in my business right now if I hadn't have dwelled on the logo or the blog or the name. Or, I should have just gotten started and put an offer out there instead of tweaking every little nuance and going through Unsplash and selecting all the right images or the perfect images. You don't want to be saying coulda, woulda, shoulda. You want to be saying, I did it. I did it. I got out there and I did it. I crafted an idea. I set up the foundations. And let's go back to the foundations, because what we've been talking about so far has been shiny objects, right? Or the stuff that it's kind of sexy, but it doesn't really, it's not what a business is, okay? So the important foundations that you really need to have, and I do actually go through all of these in a lot more detail in my business mastermind, which is called Build Your Business Backbone. And it's called Build Your Business Backbone for a reason, because these foundations, these fundamentals are essential So they are, number one, you need to know what you are delivering. What problem are you solving for people? What problem do people have that they need you or they go to you to fix or solve for them? So in the dog walking example, the problem that you would solve is that the person is out at work, they get a train early to the commute, they're out of the house from 7 and they don't get back till 7 o'clock. And they really are concerned about the welfare of their dog. So they want someone to come in during the day and walk the dog. Now, here's the key. What you are selling is you're not selling dog walking. What you are selling is peace of mind, knowing that your dog's looked after. You are selling the results, okay? You are selling the benefit of dog walking, okay? Because that's where I think a lot of people go wrong or make that first error, is not taking the time to work out what is the problem that you're solving for people. Now, I know a lot of marketing these days talks about, and I'm not a marketer by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that a lot of marketing these days talks about people's pain points all the time. You have to talk about people's, what upsets them, what keeps them awake at night and all those kind of things. And that's great because it helps you to get some insight into the character. But I think, playing on that too much, I don't know, it doesn't sit right for me. There's not integrity in that. The integrity is in saying you're going to have peace of mind. The Alfie, the dog, is going to be walked and well cared for so that your mind is free and clear to be able to focus on your work in the office, and you're not going to worry while you're away from home during the day at work, so that that he's not okay, because you'll know that he's in safe hands, whatever. You've written a comment, so true. Often compare my beginning to someone else's middle. I focus where I'm not at yet instead of putting on the foundations. Yeah, and that's so true. I mean, this is something else that holds people back, is comparisonitis. Oh, I want to be like her, or she's done so much more, or look at her, she's got 1,000 likes on her Facebook page, or she's got this, or she's got that. And it does you nothing except waste your time. Everybody started somewhere, and one of the key things that you can do to stop getting overwhelmed about those things is to recognise that you can avoid distraction by turning off social media, and you can avoid distraction by creating a plan at the outset of every day, so that you know exactly where your focus is going to be to move you forwards to that big picture, okay? Because the way to move out of overwhelm is to take action, okay? So number one, or just going back to the foundations, number one is knowing what problem you solve, knowing what you sell, right? Knowing what it is that people are paying you money for, okay? And it can be a product or a service. But what's at the heart of that? And I think the other thing that people get caught up in, and I know I still... so it's asking me to force quit applications. And I still have trouble with this, which is, but I can do everything. I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And it's actually getting to a point where you start your offering or your business with one thing that you're doing really, really well and serve it in an amazing way for people. I have days where I think, yes, I can do strategy, I can do leadership development programs, I can certify people in coaching, I can certify people in NLP as practitioners and master practitioners, I can certify people in hypnosis, I can run retreats, and on and on and on. I can cook, I can run a guest house, I can do all these things. And that's what happens is, it's like the dog with a fluffy tail, the shiny object syndrome that we generate from within ourselves, because there are so many possibilities. You're talented, you've got a lot to offer. The key is to work out exactly where to begin and to say, okay, here is what I'm going to do first. I'm going to start my apprenticeship as a business owner, honing my skill, delivering one thing really, really well. And when I've mastered that, I'm going to move on. And when I've mastered that, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to expand, and I'm going to grow. But the very first thing that I'm going to do is work out exactly what I am going to do first, what I'm going to deliver first. And think of it like an apprenticeship, okay? The apprentice mechanic doesn't get handed the keys to the Bentley on day one and get told, right, strip the engine down, give it a good clean, there's problems with the carburetor, think we've got a problem with the exhaust, find the hole, whatever, okay? They don't start like that, okay? They start with looking at the manual, sweeping the floor, doing all of those things. They start with, pardon the pun, the nuts and bolts, okay? So what's the base level service that you can offer somebody? Think about that. And I don't mean that it has to be a simple service by any stretch of the imagination. What I mean is, what's the best bit of value that you have to offer, the best knowledge, skills and experience that you have to offer that you could package up today into a product or service and sell it, okay? And I know that you do have a lot to offer. I know that there is a marketplace out there. So that's number one, foundation. Work out what you have to sell, what product or service that you have to sell and what value you add. Number two is work out whether there's a need for it, right? So in our dog walking example, if I'm trying to be a dog walker in a community where there's no dogs, I'm going to have to think of something else pretty quickly, okay, or move or whatever. I'm going to need to change and be flexible. So determining if there's a market for it, there's a really great resource, which there's a couple of great resources you can use for this. And depending on what marketplace you're in, you can use Facebook groups to post surveys and questions. You can, asking what problems people are experiencing around that area. You can go on things like Reddit. You can do Google searches just to see what questions people are asking. And I've got to try and remember now. I'll post it in the link because it's not coming to mind. But there's a search that you can do to find out the questions that people are asking on Google. And that's a great resource, not just for working out whether or not there's potentially a need for a business or a solution to that problem, but it's also a great resource for blog post titles and for structuring your content on social media. So I'll just make a note that I need to find that. And if you do know it, let me know, because before I finish this. But it's great because it's a resource and it basically tells you the sort of questions that people are posting, okay? The other thing is to do searches on things like LinkedIn, depending on the industry that you're in. Are there people doing similar things to what you're doing? And this is an interesting thing as well, that there's a philosophy that says that if there's lots of people doing or offering the service or product that you want to offer, that's a great thing, right? Because it means there's a need for it. Okay, sure, there's competition, but it also means there's a need for it. If there's no one offering that service or product, it warrants a bit more thinking about. Not that it's not going to work, but you need to determine whether or not there's going to be a marketplace for it, okay? If you're thinking about doing any kind of consultancy, go back to the people that you've worked for in the past or with in the past. Have a chat about their needs. Keep up with industry groups. There are a lot of industry bodies around that publish newsletters about the changes that are happening in legislation and, new government requirements, etc. That could completely change the landscape in terms of need in your area for the sort of service or product that you are thinking about providing. And a good example of that in the UK at the moment is the introduction of the apprenticeship levy on businesses, where, there is a responsibility to provide apprenticeships. Now, that means that there's going to need to be more apprenticeship assessors, there's going to need to be more trainers, as the type of apprenticeships have really broadened out into away from some of the more traditional apprenticeship type areas and into more of the professional service type areas for apprenticeships. So it's also about keeping your ear to the ground in terms of what developments are happening at the moment. Now, I know you've travelled the world doing the work that you want to do or that you're skilled and qualified to do, and that you've got contacts out there. So never let that creative spark go or those contacts go in terms of thinking about, okay, so how could I package this up in a way that is marketable and that people will buy, and in a way that solves a problem for people as well. So number one is working out what you do, the services and the package and the product. Whether or not there's a need for it, I think surveys are great. In terms of just getting feedback. And the reason that they're good is twofold. One is obviously you get information about where people's pain points are, but two is you get information about the sort of language that they're using around the problem. And you often hear marketers say that if you do a survey and people are responding, use some of their words in your own website, in your own correspondence, in your own communications to describe that problem, because it will really resonate and hit home with those people in a much deeper way than if you just tell them what you think that they want to hear or what you think they're thinking. So they're two of the things that you need. Then the other thing that you need, you need content, okay? So that's the next thing. So you've got a product or a service, you've got a market for it, you need content. And by content, I mean you need a way in which to deliver it. You need a process. You need systems in place to enable you to go from being hired to deliver something and actually deliver it, okay? Basic example, in the case of the dog walker, I'm hired to walk the dog. I need to know dog walking routes around the area. I need to make sure I've got all my equipment with me. I need to make sure that I can fulfill my responsibilities as a dog walker. I need to make sure that I've got a proper schedule in place so that I'm not double booking myself. I need to make sure that I'm giving myself adequate time between appointments. So it's about factoring all those things in that, to some of us seem boring. And I know, I'm not a detailed person, but you do need to make sure that you've got those things in your business as well, okay? How am I I'm getting sales, how am I fulfilling them, okay? It'd be like Amazon having 80 people want to buy a Trolls DVD and then only having 2 in stock, right? There's 78 people waiting. So what you need to do is make sure that you've got that fulfillment ability in place as well. And really understand before you start selling your services how you're actually going to fulfill what people need. And for example, if that's in coaching or if that's in creating an online course, know what you're going to deliver, how you're going to deliver it before you actually do it. If you're thinking about doing VA services, what systems and structures and processes are you going to have in place as a VA to monitor your time, to communicate with the client? What are you going to become adept at? And actually a VA is a great example of niching down in your market too, because there are lots and lots of VAs out there, okay? And the most successful ones will specialise in either one of two ways. The first way that they'll specialise is by being a VA for X profession. So being a VA for new entrepreneurs, or being a VA for accountants, or a VA for doctor's surgeries, or a group of doctor's surgeries. And the other way is that they specialise by being a specialist in a certain technical expertise. So it might be, I'm a specialist VA for ConvertKit, or I'm a specialist VA for ClickFunnels, or I'm a specialist VA who does graphic design, or I'm a specialist VA in producing in content. So I will repurpose content in a number of different ways. So there's lots of different ways that you can specialise in any field and that you can niche down in any field. So it's important to get an understanding of what your delivery mechanisms are. So what your content is going to be once people have actually hired you, what you are actually going to be delivering. And that's really important. Now the fourth thing, is around pricing. How are you going to price what you have? Now, in my consulting business, obviously that's a different market space to this business, which is working with predominantly entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, some small businesses, but mainly individuals who are working on their own, creating their own businesses. But in the corporate environment, I tend to write proposals for pricing, and there's more choice. Okay, so if you want this service with this add-on, it's going to be this to get that result. If you want this service with this add-on, it's going to be that to get that result. Okay, so what I tend to do is give people 2 or 3 choices which still meet the needs of what they need to have done, but it's giving them the choice on price, and people quite often like that. The other thing then is to make sure that you have different packages available. Think about the packages that you're going to have. If you're starting your apprenticeship, you might have 2 different variations on the package, and they might be different based on the amount of time that you spend with someone, or in terms of the format that people go with. So, for example, one-to-one coaching tends to be more expensive than participating in a group coaching program, just because of the different level of time and energy that I need to be able to deliver on both those different things. So really think about that pricing. So what you need to think about then is, okay, so what am I offering? What am I selling? What's my product? What's in the product? What's my market for that product? And how am I going to price that product? And unless you've got those foundations in place, what you call doesn't really matter. Your logo doesn't matter. The pictures don't matter. And you know what? If you are very visual, I'm very visual. Sit down at night with a cup of tea and give yourself 20 minutes, half an hour to go through Unsplash or to look at different permutations of website mixed colours or whatever. See that as more of a kind of fun activity to do, like more of a relaxation activity than a business-related activity. And in fact, it's funny because I've got I don't know if you can see that, but I've got my mood board for my business mastermind here, and I've actually had that for about 3 years now. And it's interesting. So it's got all my fonts and everything on it. But I think that it can take ages. And don't let me get started on how long it took to get the colours for the guest house and the glamping ground website either. It's fun, but I don't know whether people who are planning a hen weekend, I mean, obviously it's attractive to them, but how much they worry about the colour of the website. It's more about the package. What do I get? What problem are you solving? How easy are you making it for me to come away for a weekend? What's the accommodation like? What do I get? What food do I get? All that kind of thing. And how much does it cost? And actually that's not a bad example in terms of, sorry, there's a cat scratching the lounge. That's not a bad example either in terms of business models evolving over time, because they really, really do. When the original idea behind the guest house was that I would have a space to run retreats and training without having to hire somewhere externally and just live in it full time. And then I thought, well, if I'm already, if I'm paying money out anyway every month, we might as well live in the place. And if it's going to be used for that, we might as well expand and do some bed and breakfast. So then we started doing a little bit of bed and breakfast type accommodation, but predominantly for groups. And thought, well, if we're going to be doing this, we want to get an award. So we applied and won an award, 4 and won an award, entered and won an award for the guest house. And then we thought, actually, it's a lot of work, like breakfast and, looking after people. And even though I had a team in place, a great housekeeper and a couple of Saturday staff and things like that, it's a lot of work, and you're taking bookings and all of that. So the model over time has evolved, and I won't go through all the permutations, but the model that we have now works really well for us, and it's evolved to being, okay, so we take group bookings only. There must be 12 or more people. We do it on a per person rate. We don't provide any food. We do complete self-catering. We help people organise their activities, but we put them in touch with providers rather than us providing that service that we used to, where we used to actually organise everything for them. I mean, it's evolved. I can't believe the stupid things and how much we've learned during that apprenticeship. For example, when we first moved to more of a group model, what we would do is we'd say to people, here's your invoice. Now, you might have, you've got 12 people and there's 3 installments. I'll just get them to ring us or just get them to pay us directly. What a nightmare that was. So, and so we had people paying little tiny amounts and not putting a booking reference on. The amount of chaos that caused. And if we'd have had our processes in place right at the beginning, if we'd thought it through at the beginning and thought actually one payment, they can pay 3 installments, but one person making the payment, and this is what they have to put on the payment receipt, etc. for the bank, And then they would add on activities, and then they'd decide, right, 3 people, grandma and two aunties don't want to do it because they think they're too old for go-karting. So can you take that money off? Oh my gosh, and we've just cut it out. I mean, I don't know. I think I had an epiphany one day and I was like, what are we doing? Because at the end of the day, yes, we were providing a great service, but B, the recognition in terms of the financial recognition and all of those things for the work and effort we were putting in just wasn't there. It's ultimately not there. And we still get great feedback. We still get clients coming. It hasn't affected the business in any way, but what it has done is made my life and my business partner's life a hell of a lot easier dealing with one person. So this is where I say, like, if you sit down and have a little strategy session with yourself, about what's going to work most effectively for you. And sure, businesses change and you need to change, right? You need to change and grow. And you need to pay attention to feedback that you're getting. Use your sensory acuity. Notice what's happening externally and internally. How are you feeling about it? Is it working for you? Is it working for your daughter? You've got a daughter. So, is it working for your family, what you're doing? And you can change things too. That's the other thing. I think sometimes we become so overwhelmed because we think, what if I fail? Well, if you do, it's a learning experience and you try something new. But the key is to actually pay such great attention that you make a change as soon as you can while still giving it a fair go. And my Mindset Hacks training, I talk about this. I think it's like Mindset Hack number 4 or something. You still give it a go, but you learn to tune in to noticing the feedback that you're getting, internal and external feedback, to say something needs to change because it's working or it's not working. Okay, so, but if you spend some time up front to get these foundations in place, the overwhelm will disappear. And the other thing, of course, is that you need to have a plan so that you know every day what you're going to do when you get up. Okay, you know what you're going to do, and sometimes it's a matter of writing a to-do list the night before. But I think importantly what it's about doing is taking that big picture vision that you have for your business and saying to yourself, how did I get here? Like, imagine that you're already there, that you're running this successful business. And in timeline therapy, we have a technique that we use where you float above yourself and you do a visualization. And basically what you're doing is you're getting to that end point where you're in the vision of your business having, the success that you desire. So it is the big picture, and you're looking backwards. And what you do is you look backwards towards now, to this moment of inception, the very beginning of your apprenticeship. And you pay attention and you just look backwards, and what you do is from that vantage point, from the point of being a success in business, and it's important as well that you define what success means to you. Like, what will it be? Is it a financial figure? Is it number of clients? Is it the ease and freedom that you have in your life? And it's different for everyone. And sometimes, I know for me, it's a combination of those things. But defining the success, what success is for you, is just absolutely critical. But when you get to that point and you look back, you think, well, what was the last step I had to take before everything was success, before I got to this point? And then when you know what that step is, you write it down. Then you say to yourself, what was the step just before that I took? And the step before that, and the step before that. And essentially what you're doing is you're working your way back towards now, back to where you are now, looking at all those little steps that you took along the way to get to where you are. And yes, it's a visualization. And yes, it's your imagination and your unconscious mind. But isn't that so powerful? That your unconscious mind and your conscious mind can work together and align in such a way that says, if I'm envisioning that I'm taking these steps and I'm getting to X, I'm getting to my ultimate goal, to what success is for me. We do a lot of work on this when you work with me one-on-one, obviously, and also in my mastermind. But it's really key to have these things, to understand what you're going to do. And the other thing, of course, is to model other people. Look at what other people have done. Ask questions. Get involved in forums on LinkedIn and Facebook, and, what were the 3 most critical things that you did at the start of your business? Or how did you know that things were all going to fall into place? What had to happen? Be curious, be that apprentice, that curious apprentice. And, look and research, read business books, autobiographies, a great resource of business people for getting insights into how they do what they do and the steps that they took. So many great business podcasts out there as well. There's lots of great free resources to help you to establish what you need to be doing and to move forward. But what I would say, the very first things you need to do are the things that I've just talked about. Get your foundations in place, get the structure in place, and harness that energy and harness that creativity and that drive and that passion. Because you need it, right? You need it in order to build that amazing business that is just going to fulfill everything for you at the intellectual level, at the level that you want in terms of freedom and lifestyle, and the financial level too. Really, really important. And obviously there are some tricks and steps that you can take along the way which will make that a quicker process. And I know one of those things is working with someone else, like a coach like me, or it is being part of an accountability group, or just having someone else there to help guide you and say, okay, here we are, here's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and how you're going and how you're tracking, and what support can I give you, and you're doing well, and don't throw in the towel. Whatever you do, you can do it. You've got grit, you've got determination. So they that can really benefit you as well, is to be part of something like that. But I think when you are overwhelmed, the absolute key is to take action, because overwhelm breeds overwhelm. Because the more we're overwhelmed, the more we think of all the things we've got to do and all the other things that we can be overwhelmed about. It doesn't help us at all. So the key is to actually sit down and work out the basics, work out what you need to do, work out how you're going to find out if people want what you're buying, work out what your packages are, work out what you're selling, work out the benefits and the features and all of those good things. And it does take time. But I'm guessing that there is something that you could do right now, straight after this call, that will move your business forward. And I'm guessing that there's someone that you can reach out to, a phone call that you can make, an email that you could write, a blog that you could read. There is something that you can do right now, as we're finishing this call, that is going to actually help to move you further out of overwhelm and into action. Grab a planner, write things down, do yourself a favour. I haven't got one to hand, I don't think. But grab a planner, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Write down what you're going to do, okay? And obviously, if you are part of the challenge, and I know you are, Ira, just book in that call with me, the half-an-hour call, and we can go through it and line it all up, and you can start taking action. And it's amazing how when you do truly focus on the things that matter, and the things that matter are the things that are going to move you closer to that big vision. The things that matter are the things that are going to generate money for you. They're going to generate some income. The things that matter are the things that are going to enable you to grow your business, to attract your clients, and to really, that's it, right? They're your priorities. Okay, does this activity help me to grow my business? Does this activity help me to get clients? Does this activity put money on the table, money in my pocket? Does this activity generate revenue? And think about that all the time. And for some of them, you might be thinking, yay, this will help me generate revenue because the colours are so pretty and everyone's going to want to come to my website. But the reality is, this is the cover, and underneath all that is the work, the service, the value, the contribution that will actually get your clients and get your money. So as tempting as it is, and I know how tempting it is because I've spent hours on Canva and all those other things looking for colours, but the reality is it's about what you deliver, the value that you add, that is going to make the biggest difference. And so if you can work out the actions that you need to take to make that happen in the shortest possible time, you're absolutely on a winner. And I am more than happy, as always, to help you with that. So I hope that's been helpful. I don't know if you're still here. And if you're watching the replay, please do remember that you can write down comments. I will answer them. If you've got questions, I'll answer them as well. head on over into our Facebook group. I'll put the link down there too. And the other thing I'd like to invite you to do is share this live stream as well. If you know someone else in business who would benefit from watching it, then please just share it with them. You can share it in Messenger, I think, or share it on their page or whatever. Hopefully you've got some benefit from it. I know that if you do work on those foundations, success will flourish, success will follow. Okay, so I'm going to go now because one of the reasons that I do what I do is because I like to be at the school gate for my girls, and it's now 5 to 3 and I have to leave. So it's been lovely talking with you. Any more questions, please post them up. Please like and share and comment. Thanks. I'm Lara Young from Design Your Fabulous Future, and she makes it happen. And I'll see you again very soon. Bye.